Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
How's it going? How are you?
It's going pretty well. Excited to be diving into some more Garage Gym Athlete problems, solving Garage Gym Athlete problems one problem at a time, to where there are no problems in being a Garage Gym Athlete. The solution is just try harder. Should we just say that for every problem?
Yeah. So you have this problem? Well, here's the solution, try harder. And then until next week.
That's kind of how this one, unfortunately, the answer may end up or come across. We have this conversation all the time with athletes. Maintaining discipline is the problem that we're covering today. I mean, who doesn't have this problem? Discipline is a difficult thing, and motivation is one thing. We talk about this all the time as well. Motivation is unreliable. You can wake up motivated one day, not motivated the next day. You can never, ever rely on being motivated. You can't rely on excitement. And the things that get you motivated or excited are like a new program, new pair of shoes, new piece of equipment, something like that. That's a short-term excitement. And you can play off those psychological triggers for a little bit, but it's not going to last long term. So you have to figure out how to maintain discipline in your life. And I have, an overwhelming amount of thoughts on maintaining discipline. I wrote a book kind of on that topic. It's called Killing Comfort, and I'll dive into some of that today. But I will try and keep this short. These are shorter segments, but definitely shameless plug. Go check out Killing Comfort if becoming more disciplined, getting started with things, sticking to things. If you need help with that, go check out Killing Comfort. It's on Amazon. It's on Audible. But let's get into our tips for the day, Joe. So how do you maintain discipline?
I think I've said this in the past or something like it, and that is realizing when you need to just force yourself and like really, really buckle down and make yourself either train or do what you need to do, or look at your training in a macro view. Is this a pattern that you've been developing? I've been slacking. Is it a long-term thing, or is it like I'm sick and I'm traveling the last 2 weeks, I haven't really trained kind of thing? And then realize what I don't want to step on your toes, but having your baseline for over a long period of time, having you're averaging out your 5 training sessions a week, or even if it's other kind of chores or family stuff, look at it over a longer point of view and realize, okay, am I starting to slip and lack discipline, or is this just a temporary thing? And if it is starting to be a new norm, then you have to go and look at your schedule and go, okay, how can I fit this back in there? What was the cause for me to slip? Was it weather? Was it time? Do I need to make time? Am I starting to dedicate too much time to this other thing? Am I just being lazy? Do I just not want to do it? Maybe if that's the case, then maybe you just need to switch up what you're doing training wise. If endurance and running and stuff just isn't as fun to you anymore, then don't force yourself to necessarily run. Maybe you need to think about, okay, well, what am I going to enjoy more? Maybe I should look at strength for this next little bit. Maybe I should focus on, body weight stuff and mobility, just for variety. And even if you have this long-term goal, it's even okay to pause from your goal or sidetrack a little bit from your goal, because as long as you're doing something, and it could even help benefit. I know this past year I did strength for the entire year, but I also did 1 month of the Murph burner, which was all body weight. And I was still kept up with my back squat goal, and all with back squat. I was still focused on the back squat, but I took an entire month and just did body weight stuff. And I traveled some too, because that's just what I wanted to do. But it's fine to, even if you have goals, to find little sidetracks if it's going to help motivate you or push you, or like re-up your reinvigorate your motivation and your desire to keep going. So kind of a practical application of, maybe you just need to yeah, that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah. So all good points there. Discipline is a tough thing if you're like struggling with it. I think Joe brings up a really good point, like looking at, is this a pattern? And that's something I looked at, was it last year or was it this year? I don't know, whenever I was hurt, which was a long time. Like that was probably one of the longest injuries I've had. Like I've had knee problem before. I broke my foot. But this lower back issue I got, really put me out. And I was still doing things, but everything had to be at a different level of intensity, a different weight than I'm used to. Like I just had to go so much lighter on things. I couldn't run how I normally could. Biking even hurt my back. And like it put me, to be honest, like kind of in a bad mental state for fitness, because all of the things I enjoyed doing, I was no longer really able to do. And so like spending an hour on the ski erg is just like, God, this is awful. Like there's nothing more boring than a ski erg over and over again for long periods of time, but you just have to do it anyway. But what I started to get concerned about with not being able to go as heavy or be as intense is I was like, is this like, am I burning fewer calories? Am I less active? Is there going to be a metabolic change here? And so I pulled up all like data because I've been wearing the Garmin now for such a long period of time. I was like, am I hitting less intensity minutes, which is one thing that it tracks? And then am I hitting less overall steps per day? Am I being less active, burning fewer calories than average? And what's cool about having a wearable or a tracker is I looked at the past year, past 12 months, and I realized things were still consistent. I was still burning around the same amount of calories every day. I was still getting enough intensity minutes every single day. All of those things were still in there. I was still hitting step goals almost every single day and all these things. And those are really basic things to look at, but I was looking more pattern based of, is this like lesser version of what I'd want to do? Is it still effective long-term? And it seemed to be fine. So I think Joe makes a good point, and wearables can really help you with that. Now getting into discipline a little bit more from my perspective, if you're really struggling, I think adding some sort of accountability into like a fitness routine would be really helpful. I've mentioned on the podcast multiple times, my brother started training with me earlier this year, and he's become my accountability partner, at least the 4 days a week that he comes, because we meet at 1:30 p.m. at my house to train. And so if I'm like busy at work or I have something that I want to finish, he just drove like 25 minutes to get here. So there's no moving it. There's no like, oh, hey, bro, can you come back later? He's like, I just drove a half hour to work out with your ass. No, I'm not coming back later. Like, he shows up, which is really awesome on him. Just to say like he's got that consistency and he shows up, but that accountability alone, like I normally would always train, but he's made it to where I will train at the exact same freaking time every single day because he shows up at that time. And in the past, I would move like, okay, tomorrow morning I'll work out in the morning because I got something else going on. Then I'll work out in the afternoon. Now it's just been super consistent. So accountability helps a ton. Another thing would be, I said, reduce as much friction as possible in your life. We've kind of talked about this on other podcast episodes, but laying out your clothes the night before, if you work out in the morning, writing the workout on the board, making sure all your gear is prepped, doing those things the night before, getting prepped for the next day. They sound like small things, but they reduce a lot of that friction in your mind and friction in actual physical activity. So you will be more able and willing to do those things. And then a big thing, so this is straight from Killing Comfort. I talk about this aviate, navigate, communicate process. And the first one there, aviate, it's basically practicing discipline is all this principle is the aviate principle. You're not worrying about some goal. You're not worrying about helping other people. You're not worrying about anything other than the daily doing, like doing something every day. In the book, I challenge people to do 100 days straight without missing of something, 100 consecutive days of something. And I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's walking. I don't care if it's fitness. I don't care if it's blinking your eyes 50 times in a row. Like it does not matter what it is. The idea behind the practice is that you can do something every single day for 100 days without missing. You're building a grit muscle here. You're building discipline. You're building mental toughness to do something over and over again. And what you'll find is my recommendation, if you're like, okay, I'm going to work out every day for 100 days. Say you get 13 days into that, you suck, you didn't do it. You don't actually suck. You're just a human being. We all suck. So anyway, you do 13 days, you miss the workout, boom, you have to start back at 0. I think that what you picked was a little too challenging. Working out every day for 100 days, that's too challenging. So you need to go smaller than that. You need to go smaller than that. So it's not working out every day. It's something else. And that's why I jokingly say, blink your eyes 50 times in a row, because it doesn't matter. I can guarantee that if you set that as your goal, you'd forget one day, probably like day 86, and you're like, crap, I forgot to blink my eyes 50 times in a row, like intentionally. Then you'd have to start back over. But once you actually can prove to yourself that you can do something for 100 days straight, what you've done for your psychology and your actual practice of discipline is massive. And you're going to be able to do that in new ways. So then next it'll be, okay, I'm going to drink 100 ounces of water every day for 100 days. And then you're able to knock that out. Okay, now I'm going to eat this many vegetables every day for 100 days. Then you're able to do that. Then you're able to work out for an hour a day, every day for 100 days without missing. These things build off each other, but you have to start smaller than you probably like. And you need to do it for 100 days straight before you move on to something more challenging. So that's AV8 principle, straight from the Killing Comfort book, something that you should definitely do. And then my last tip for maintaining discipline is having a no-fail item is what I call it. Also in the book, The Art of Impossible, he calls it a low-energy grit exercise. We both have a very similar idea on this. And you can put it in like the fitness world, but there's like this no-fail. It's just something you're going to do. It's not necessarily moving you forward. Like in Joe's example, it's not moving you forward in like a back squat, getting bigger manner, but it's doing something when things got crazy. So if my life just got crazy today, I had all this unexpected crap happen. I'm sitting here, it's 8 p.m. I want to be in bed by 9. There's like, I'm not going to work out. Like, I already know that. Like, what can I do? And so you can establish what that will be ahead of time. And you can call it your no-fail item, your low energy grit exercise, whatever you want. And so that could be 1 mile walk or run. That could be 100 push-ups. That could be anything. And I mentioned on the podcast a while back, what I've selected for my no-fail item or low energy grit exercise is one portion of Murph. So it's either 1 mile, it's either 100 pull-ups, it's 200 push-ups, or it's 300 squats. Not all of those things. It's one of those components of Murph become my low energy grit exercise or no-fail item. If I have one of those days where things just aren't happening, but I'm at least going to get that mile in, or I'm going to sit in my bedroom and I'm going to do 200 push-ups, or I'm going to do 300 squats, because I know what I'm doing is not necessarily moving me forward in a training program, but it's making me more disciplined. It's building that grit muscle that we all want to have. And so establishing something like that is another great tactic there. But that's about all I have to keep it shorter than I could, keep going. But yeah, those are all my tips for maintaining and building discipline.
Just little nuggets. That's what we got.
Little nuggets.
But
all right.
The cover book will have more.
Yeah, if you dive into that book, I mean, seriously, I know it's self-serving for me to say that, but I didn't write it for cash. I wrote it to help people, and I think you'd get a lot out of it if this is your specific problem, maintaining discipline, or if you know anybody who may be struggling with maintaining discipline. If you actually apply what's in the book, it will help you a lot, not just read it, apply it. But that's it. If you have enjoyed this one and you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, like, leave us a comment, all those good things. If you're listening to your podcast player, 5-star review, positive comment really helps us out. And then if you have a problem, we don't have a formalized way to do this. If you're in our Facebook group, you can just throw it out there. Be like, hey, I want this Garage Gym Athlete problem covered. You can go to garagegymathlete.com, reach out to support. Very easy to find out how to communicate with us there. Shoot a problem to us that you'd like for us to cover here. We have a lot to go over already. But we were always happy to get more. So that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching or listening. Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Thanks for listening.